Bills fans, what's up? Forgive my appearance. I had off today. It was a lazy day for me. It is cold as hell up in the Northeast here, whether you're in Jersey, New York, upstate, Western, wherever you are. It is cold, and it's only going to get colder. It's going to be like in the single digits, but we're not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about the Bills and their busy, busy week so far. Getting the business done early. They are not sitting on their hands. They're not waiting around. They just seem to be like, go, 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 go. Brandon Beane is down there. East-West Shrine Game practices. I've seen him on the sidelines myself. There are some videos up here on YouTube. See him clear as day. And Bills filling out the coaching staff, taking care of their own. A key player like Lorenzo Alexander, 1-year deal. He pretty much said it right at the beginning of the conference call. This is going to be his last year with the Bills. So this or his last year playing football, shall I say? He views this as this is it, and he's one last go. He's Sean McDermott's main conduit to the locker room, to the building, and he's an important piece. And he's still a very, very productive player. You just look at his numbers, you see what he does, the variety of roles he fills, and he's a hell of a piece. And it gets always me thinking about the future, what they need to do at linebacker, what they need to do at front seven. The secondary always seems like the Bills under this particular regime figure it out. McDermott, his staff seem to find guys just fit what they do, whether it was E.J. Gaines, Levi Wallace, Leonard Johnson, Taron Johnson, Trey White. They just turned over the whole secondary, and they just are able to find their kind of guys in that area. That's why I don't view secondary as big of a need when they go up to pick at 9 in the draft. I only see free agency being used for depth in that area. Even the draft, third day of the draft, the Bills have 7 picks. So as it currently stands, so that's an area, and we've seen them be able to make hay in those rounds. They've added quality in those rounds. Matt Milano, Taron Johnson, just to name a few. So the main ones anyway. So I have no trepidation about what they can do in those rounds. And at the time those kind of guys are picked, that we're all kind of like, well, I don't have the time. You guys don't have the time to sit and look all these guys. We mainly, us novice types, we look at the main, maybe top 3 rounds. But you see the bigger names bantied about, and those are the guys you kind of focus on, the big ticket items. But those day 3 guys are been proven to be invaluable. So with that said, the coaching staff, Bobby Johnson, former Bills assistant O-line coach, now comes back as the offensive line coach. Interesting. Came shortly after the Colts fired their offensive line coach, which was a weird move. It seems maybe knee-jerk for what happened in KC. Maybe they fired him because they felt like the performance wasn't good. It seemed like that was their position of strength, but it wasn't on that day. They just seemed to be outplayed by KC, out-physicaled to the point of attack. They couldn't get anything going. Luck never seemed to be in rhythm. It was a very weird game because such a perceived strength for the Colts never came to fruition, got a foothold in the game, and arguably, not even a question, the biggest weakness of Kansas City is their defense. Especially anything compared to that offense is going to be a weakness, but in particularly the defense, and they just had no problems whatsoever and harassed Andrew Luck all game. So it seemed like that kind of firing a bowl of blood, but it turns out Frank Reich wants his guy, and there's a lot of Bills fans who kind of went about saying the same thing about the special teams hire that hasn't been formally announced, but it's pretty much Heath Farwell is going to be the special teams coach. And there was a segment of Bills fans, oh, look, a Panthers guy, Carolina guy, look. The guy had no crossover with McDermott or Beane. He came there last season, of course, right away. Well, I'm sure he called Ron Rivera. Of course, why wouldn't he call Ron Rivera? maybe McDermott called Frank Reich about Bobby Johnson. That happens. Frank Reich was his own guy. That happens. I mean, we've seen coaches not take jobs because they couldn't hire their own staffs. You want to be able to hire guys you want, guys you trust. Your job's on the line, and those guys help you keep it or help you lose it. So, and Crossman was the last bastion. He was it. He was the last tie to anything pre-McDermott. If you want to count the strength and conditioning staff, which is, I think, is a huge, huge area of importance. I can't underscore that enough. I remember those Bobby Allaire days. I don't know if you guys remember those under Dick Duron. They were terrible. That team was injury riddled all the time. They were so brittle and just always out physicaled. Not to say that this team didn't have its deficiencies this season, but those teams were just so they were like tissue paste, Charmin tissue soft. Those teams, in my opinion. So we'll see where all that shakes out. Now, the special teams coach, all these guys are young. That's the biggest thing. All these guys are young, 20 years younger, 15 years younger, and 15 years younger than their predecessors. I know Juan Castillo's like 60. Crossman's like 51. This guy's 37. Johnson's like 43. So there's a significant lessening of age within the coaching staff, which I think is good. You're giving young, hungry guys an opportunity. I don't know about you guys. Every time I see the same names, cyclical names, just the same thing coming this guy, it's like Greg Williams. Greg Williams been everybody's defensive coordinator. It seems like he's worked for everybody. Who's another guy? Norv Turner. Norv Turner's been everybody's offensive coordinator. Isn't it about time you see new names, new faces? And I like the fact that he's willing to give guys a first opportunity. It makes guys want to do a good job. Like, hey, this guy's giving me my first shot to oversee my own unit. It's not the same old, retread guy coming in. And we'll see how it works out. Hopefully it works good to our benefit. I am never not going to root for a guy in a Bills uniform in any capacity, coaching, player, training. I don't care what capacity it's in. So, and I'm sure the wide receiver coach is going to be in the same vein. I personally think it's going to be Chad Hall. He's been on the staff going on 3 years. He's currently down East-West Shrine Game coaching the wide receivers of all positions. They have a couple other coaches down there too. So I think he might be the next in line to take over. And he was one of the guys. I remember reading a piece like how he was staying late after practice with guys like Robert Foster, Cam Phillips, trying to help those younger guys along, Isaiah McKenzie, trying to get them up to speed. So a guy like him, he could be the guy that's going to be tapped on the shoulder. And I looked at what Jacksonville did with their coaching staff, the exact opposite of what the Bills did. They went for older, retread guys, same name, just the same flavor over and over and over again. I was just like, I'm glad I don't have to have that. I didn't want to see those names, and I could probably think of a million if I sat here and thought about it that I just like, seen him on 1,000,001 staffs. It's like if you literally go on Wikipedia, you will count a guy. He's been minimum 8 teams, minimum. But it's been a busy week re-signing Derek Anderson, Lorenzo, Jeremiah Sherles, and I saw, of course, Bills fans were like, "Oh, why are we signing this guy? He's terrible." He's a depth guy, veteran minimum. They could cut him tomorrow. Who knows? They're not beholden to keeping Jeremiah Sherles. No worries. If the guy works out, he works out. Maybe he's a depth guy. Maybe he's a guy they take into camp. Who knows? Just people need to relax. I think the quarterback room was the biggest piece. And who says they don't add there still? Who says they don't see a veteran that they don't like more than one of the two that they got and they don't pick up? There's not much they can't do with their cap room. But again, I don't want to see them go ape shit with that money. You can get a lot of fool's gold. You can go mercenary hunting in free agency. I don't want them doing that. I want them being a lot more prudent. I've thrown out a few names myself many times. I think the biggest ticket item I've thrown out there was Mitch Morse, the center from KC. I'd love to see him in a Bills uniform. Left tackle Greg Robinson, I think he resurrected his career in Cleveland. He settled the left tackle down after they gave it to an undrafted rookie. He came in, played well. He's definitely has the talent. He was a second overall draft pick. He's still 26 years old. He's got the size. He's got the athleticism. I think he's a guy maybe you can get on the upside. He finally settled down. The NFL comes in too big, too overwhelming for him. Maybe he's not heady enough, not mature enough to handle it. And finally, maybe he settled in. Mark Lewinsky was a guy that the Colts just had. He's a free agent. Bobby Johnson coached him. He's a guard. It's a position of need. Maybe that's a fit. Shaquille Barrett, he's a pass rusher from Denver. Maybe he's a guy you can get for, similar deal, maybe a little less than a Trent Murphy. He's a younger guy. He's a lot more twitchy, a lot more, more of an edge guy. Get to the quarterback a little faster. There's not a lot at that position after this season, so you got to think down the road. I've seen people talking about, cut Jerry, save the money. Why are you going to cut Jerry? Why are you going to cut? Shaq. You're not going to extend Shaq, give him a franchise tag. You're not going to extend Jerry. But those are guys other teams might sign. So you can get compensatory picks for those guys. LaShawn McCoy, he might get a 1-year deal from a team after this season. So you could get a compensatory pick for him. Who knows? You just don't cut guys to cut guys because they don't need to. And then you still got to fill that. You still got to fill the void that they leave. You cut Jerry Hughes, you got to go find his replacement. You cut this guy, you got to go find his replacement. I think that's sometimes, us as fans, we get a little too carried away with cut that guy. No, I don't think the team is never as bad as it looked, and it's never as good as it looked. But now they have the means to make it a hell of a lot better. You want to strengthen it. I want to strengthen it. We all just kind of have differences of opinion how to go about that. And I was talking to a bunch of people today, like that 9th overall pick is going to be so weird. It's going to be such a weird spot. Do they stay? Do they trade back? Do they take just best player available? It's so weird. Oh, finally the chat shows up. What's up, guys? It's funny? Every time I've come on here, the last time I haven't seen the chat, and I just finally changed it from top chat to live chat, and I can see what you guys are saying. I was wondering. Oh God, of course, Snarl. That was horrific. Imagine, how many indignities we've suffered as Bills fans, whether it was Rex Ryan's buffoonery, Dick Duran just boo 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 through press conferences. Malarkey was a little doddering. Greg Williams thinks he's the god of football. If you talk to Greg Williams, listen to him long enough, you'd think he invented it. But that whole, I was watching it live, as I'm always curious to see what the teams in the division do, and he's doing that. I've seen him do that in Miami prior with the hat on, so it's not as obvious because he always has a hat on his Miami press conferences, but he was doing it, and I was like, this does not, it looks a hell of a lot worse when he doesn't have his hat on. I kind of felt bad for him after a certain point because they really, he is the butt of a joke for like a week, man. That's tough to watch, but that whole hire, man, so uninspiring though. Just a retread. What are you gonna do? That's their issue. That's not the Bills' issue. But I was gonna ask you guys, the 9th overall pick, defensive line. Everybody I've heard loves Devin White, the linebacker from LSU. They say he's the Roquan Smith of this year's draft. He's easily the best linebacker. They might have to. They're definitely gonna have to replace Lorenzo. They can go so many spots. If there's not a defensive lineman or an edge guy there, I know McDermott wasn't happy with the pass rush at the end of the year. They were just not getting to the passer. Not at all. Shaq get some pressures. He had 2 sacks the end of the year, but they just weren't consistently enough harassing. And that scheme is all about getting pressure with their front four. That's all it is. That's all it is. That's all it's ever going to be. So I just look at the names, and there's really no block of guys I can narrow down just yet. There really isn't. People want to say it's an offensive tackle, and I don't know. I don't see it. I see if it's the strength is the defense, then that's where you go. And if it's the best player is whoever this LSU linebacker, then that's where you go. Yeah, I mean, everything I've heard, Snarl, it's Devin White is a legit player. Like, I've watched some of the LSU highlights and things, and I saw him play some games. Haven't really watched him, but everything I've heard from everybody, people that don't like each other, that talk about the guy, you know how like those draft nicks are on Twitter, they argue back and forth, but all of them seem to agree about this guy, that this guy is legit as they come. But that's the thing. The name is awesome, Los, but he's Trey's cousin. But I look at that team. I was saying before, they get good production out of players that you would kind of like shrug your shoulders at. I remember when they signed Jordan Poyer, I was kind of like, I think we all kind of went, guy's been almost Pro Bowler. Micah Hyde, we all thought was a solid signing. He's been amazing for them. Trey White, he's a top 3 corner in the league. Levi Wallace was on the practice squad almost the whole year, came out of nowhere, played 6-7 really good games. EJ Gaines was a journeyman, always injured, but when he played great. They just they get guys there. They can get guys. I just don't think that they should add there. They need to be able to get after the quarterback. And if they decide it's a Jeffrey Simmons or an Ed Oliver, somebody like that, or if they can trade back for a team that wants a quarterback, then I'm for that. That's where I'm constantly going to say if they can recoup a 2 or a 3, get some more picks on day 2, I'd love that, because you get some of what you had to give up last year to get up to get Allen, get up to get Edmonds. That just, you're able to restock the team a lot more affordably that way, as opposed to just going to free agency or waiting for tier 2, second wave, tier 2 free agency once all guys get released. You're not thrilled with the safeties. They're smart but slow. I don't think our safeties are slow at all, man. They make plays all over the field. I don't see any deficiencies physically in either one of them, Hyde or Poyer. None whatsoever. They're the best group of safeties I've seen the Bills have in a long time. Probably Henry Jones and Kurt Schultz as a tandem. I don't think there's been a group like this that intercepts the ball, tackles as well, plays the ball as well. They're former cornerbacks too. They both played some corner in college and transitioned full-time safety, in the NFL. But they're really, really good safeties. They're really, really good. I mean, I thought Poyer was like a little signing. I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this. I mean, thank God he's cheap, but I wasn't a fan. I was dead ass wrong. So when they go up there and turn in that 9th pick, regardless of who it is, and it's a defensive player, I'm going to trust them. I mean, if they can get, it depends on where they trade. If they trade back for a team that wants a quarterback and they're going back into the 20s, that means you're getting a 1st-round pick next year. That's 2017 all over again. That's what you're getting. You're getting a 2nd this year, and you're getting a 1st-round pick in 2020. Because if you go all the way back from the top 10 into the 20s, there's a huge compensation that comes with that. You're not doing it for peanuts. And if they do that, you think I say no? Of course not. Anytime you can get 2 1s in this draft, that I'm all for that. No player I see is not worth 2-1s here. So if that's the case, that's the case. And again, like you said, maybe they can get that extra 2, get that extra D end, get that extra wide receiver, get that extra offensive tackle, what have you. I'm all for that, man. Whatever they decide to do, I'm gonna be on board with it. But it's so weird. It's where they usually pick, where we don't like, but now that we feel like there's a quarterback there. What's up, Damager? How you doing, bro? There's a guy there at quarterback that we all seem to like. It's a lot different. It tastes different. It's not like we're all sitting here wondering how we can get our hands on Dwayne Haskins, Daniel Jones, Kyler Murray, one of those guys. It's like, how do we chill there and maybe get a desperate team to trade with us because they want one of those guys? And I think all 4 of those guys are going to go. Owners, sometimes coaches, but owners in particular, quarterbacks, they become quarterback obsessed. They watch these draft shows. They're human beings like us, and they're like, ooh, they hear like the pundits talk about Kyler Murray, and they hear them talk about Daniel Jones and Locke and Haskins, so they get a little itchy. You're going to get a team that trades up into the top 5 for Haskins. You're going to get teams that might trade up into the top, bottom half of the top 10 to get Locke, Jones. That's where we come in. I don't think a team like Jacksonville is going to go the rookie route. They have to save their jobs there. Oh, yeah. Like, perfect example. I said it myself. How do EJ Manuel, how do Ponder, how did Tannehill, how did Jake Locker, how does Blaine Gabbert get drafted in the top half of the first round? They were top. Some of those were top 10 picks. These guys can be too, and we can be the team that benefits from it. So whether it's, the Redskins or maybe somebody looking to have a guy to groom behind a veteran, that's really advantageous position for the Bills. And I'm just, it's going to be an interesting 2 months because free agency obviously dictates a lot, but then we know the draft takes some weird turns. Like some, things aren't always what they appear to be. And that's when they get the media spin that comes into play. A lot of agents doing their behind the doors dealings and getting certain media members to plug certain prospects. And those prospects don't turn out to be as highly drafted or as highly valued as we thought they were, or a lot of the national media was, because the NFL people didn't see them that way. And that's always where there's a big variance. So we'll see who's telling the truth and who's not, even after making the playoffs last year compared to the offseason. I'm much more excited too. I was looking at it when McDermott was hired, they only had 32 players under contract. 32. They had 32 players under contract, and they had, I think they were anywhere between 8 to 11 million under the cap. They were 8 to 11 million under the cap, and they had 32 players under contract. They're 82 million under the cap now. Once the league year starts with no moves, 82 million, and they have 45 players, 45 under contract. So that's 13 more players and $70 more million. And they have their quarterback, the roster is in a completely different state 2 years than it was 2 years ago. And it seems like the guy was just hired. 2 years went by like that, as it will in sports. Time don't stand still for nobody, especially in sports. I was having fun the other day with the whole tank for Tua and lust for Lawrence thing. You can't wait around for guys. You might not be the guy that gets to pick those guys. And if you are bad enough to get a chance to maybe get those guys, there's a chance you'll be fired. And then the guy who gets to pick them is enjoying the fruits of all your suffering. Look at John Dorsey and Sashi Brown in Cleveland. It's a classic example. They did all the losing, all the planning to get those things. And then Dorsey gets to make all those picks and enjoy it all. Not saying that they would have picked the right guy because Mayfield looks good, but still, You can't wait around and do those sort of things. It's a win now league. We see guys get fired after 1 year. I mean, what they did in Arizona, I think, was a crime. I think that's going to turn out terrible. I mean, where's Cliff Kingsbury? Where does his credentials come in? Guy was fired by Texas Tech. He didn't even wait around. He took a college offensive coordinator job. Now he's an NFL head coach. I think guys are just trying to invent the next offensive guru instead of the next best head coach. We're going to be good this year. I hope so, man. I hope so. I hope we're going to be good. I hope we're going to be good not this year. I hope we're going to be good for a long time. Hope we're going to be good for a long time. And more draft picks always is an advantageous thing to have, whether it's now or in the future. If they're able to trade back, I mean, I kind of hope that's what they're thinking. And knowing these guys, they don't stay still in the draft. Whew. They're young. I said it, Damager. They're young guys. They're not retread guys. They've been assistants to the position they now hold. I know Heath Farwell played in the league. I remember when he played in the league, he was predominantly a special teams player, one of those gunners, or when the teams had wedge busters. They don't have wedge busters anymore because the return team can't have a wedge. So I think the communication will be a lot better when you get guys closer to these players' age and just fresh ideas, different ways of doing things. Maybe the old school guys just weren't, they just weren't as fluid in their communication as they needed to be, because there's different types of kids now. These kids are different. I mean, I was reading a piece about Dion Dawkins, how he said he got comfortable and kind of just thought he was the left tackle of this team, the franchise left tackle. But he admitted, I got a little lazy. I got a little complacent. He knows he has to come in and work hard this offseason. And it's up to the coaching staff, the offensive line coach, to not let him think that, not let him feel that. I don't think that the kickoffs are as bad. I just seems to think, I watch other teams return kicks, and it just seems like, in particular, the Bills, every time they return a kick, I've said this before many times, anytime they got positive yards, there was a flag. It was the proverbial block in the back or holding every time, whether it was on a punt or a kickoff. Never failed. If the Bills got more than 25 yards in either one of those areas, I know they were going to get penalized. I'm like, somebody got held or there's a block in the back. There's no way they're not getting penalized for this. And maybe that's coaching, talent, lack of talent in players. Who knows? Yeah, that's terrible. They need to change that, because now it's a non-play. You have no chance of getting the ball back if you're down 2 scores, and I don't think the NFL wants that. I think you'll see they'll try to readjust that rule in March, and we're almost there, man. March 13th, the new league year starts, so we're like 2 months away, give or take. So all this stuff is going to get rolling pretty quick, and we'll be here again soon enough talking about it, because they've pretty much done everything they can do up until this point. Barring anything unforeseen crazy, they've pretty much filled out the coaches. They've re-signed, they re-signed Anderson, which was kind of a shock. They re-signed Barkley. They got Lorenzo under contract like that. I mean, they brought back Sherles. I know there was some people that didn't like that. I'm just kind of like, he's a depth guy, relax, veteran minimum. They didn't break the bank for him. Even Lorenzo, his contract is a 1 year, I think it's like a $2-something million base with incentives that could make it 4.55. That's, for a player that's given as much as he has, that's nothing. That's peanuts. So they haven't even begun to reshape this team yet. They haven't cut anybody. And that's when the real stuff's going to start, when they start cutting people. I know there's Bean. I don't know who else is down at the East-West Shrine game, but that game's on Saturday. And then they all go to Mobile for this the Senior Bowl practices, which start Tuesday, and those are the ones that they show on NFL Network and stuff. The one Mayock did, and so that's going to be interesting now to see. And he's on the Raiders staff, so he's going to pretty much be there anyway. So that you'll see all. I mean, you'll get to hear. They'll probably hear from McDermott down there. You'll hear from Bean. You'll hear from some of the new coaches. So we'll get more Bills flavor from that. And then I think the combine is right after the week and a half after the Super Bowl. So once we get mid-February, you just get a week and a half of combine pretty much, or 8 days, and then we're right into free agency. So we're just going to it's the way the NFL wants it. It wants events spaced out just enough. You're never not without it. So we're not going to be without it for that long. Not that we ever are, really, because if we can't find something, we'll look for it. Oh God. Pillage the Patriots. Just let them lose, please. Just let them lose and go away forever. I can't stand them. Now they're the underdogs. Nobody believes in them. I love that narrative that's coming out of there. But all right, guys, I just wanted to come on here, do a quick thing. It's cold as hell out there. I hope you all are staying warm. It's Friday pretty much, thank God. So hopefully nobody has to work on the weekend. And if you do, just stay warm, try to stay cozy, and hopefully get some good games on Sunday. And go Bills as always. Have a good one, guys. Take care. Talk to you soon, man. I'll answer this real quick. Damager, do you see? Did I see? Oh, yeah, he loves that. He loves Josh Allen. He loves that guy. I know there's always people like he's the one guy that likes Allen, and you get the people that just everything he does, they smashed him. There was a video I looked at before I leave. I'll just tell you about it. It was like it showed all the drops. I counted like 34 drops. I should find one that counts the throwaways, but the 30-something drops, and maybe like you throw 5 throwaways, 10 throwaways, let's say. The kids would have had a 65% completion percentage right there. So instead of 52, you've got, and we all saw how many passes he had dropped for him. So I'll rest my case. All right, guys, have a great one. Take care. Talk to you soon. Go Bills. Thanks for listening to me always. Peace.